Have you ever looked in the mirror and realized you've been living beneath your own standard? Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, you settled for distractions, for comfort, for something that looks like success from the outside but feels like quiet resignation on the inside. There's a version of you that's stronger, sharper, more deliberate, and it's not a fantasy, it's a decision. A decision to kill the weak version of yourself, not with hate, but with discipline, not with rage, but with clarity. That version of you who snoozes the alarm, who avoids hard conversations, who trades short-term ease for long-term regret. He doesn't need to be fixed, he needs to be replaced. In this video, we're not just talking theory. You're about to discover 10 principles that will reconstruct your mindset from the ground up. Even if you only apply 2 of them, your life could look radically different in 1 month, because once your identity shifts, your outcomes do too. So let me ask you, have you ever felt like you're living below your own standard? If that hits home, drop a comment below. Your honesty might be the rope another man needs to climb out of that same silent struggle. Let's begin. Principle 1. Anchor your identity in discipline. Here's the hard truth. If your identity is built on results alone, on quarterly profits, market valuations, or applause from the outside world, then your foundation is built on sand. Because what happens when the applause fades? What happens when the market turns, when your health takes a hit, or when no one's watching? Most men collapse. But the Stoic doesn't, because his identity is anchored in something deeper, something no recession, betrayal, or bad quarter can touch. Discipline. You see, discipline isn't a means to an end. It is the identity. It's not the gym body, or the financial win, or the calm under pressure. It's the fact that you showed up every day, whether anyone clapped or not. Marcus Aurelius said, "You must build up your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." That's the heart of it. No one can stop you from acting with discipline. Ever. You don't need more motivation. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need the stars to align. You need to decide, once and for all, that you are no longer a man who negotiates with his excuses, that your identity is not a founder or a father or an executive. Your identity is the man who follows through, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Discipline becomes your compass. It tells you what to do when things fall apart. It silences the noise when emotion clouds the moment. It keeps your feet moving when others freeze. Let the world call it obsession, overwork, or rigidity. You'll know better. Because once discipline becomes your identity, you stop chasing momentum. You create it. So let others wait for motivation. Let them complain about the chaos. You train your mind like a soldier trains his muscle. You're not building habits. You're building a man who doesn't break. And that man, he doesn't need to scream to be powerful. He just executes. Principle 2, earn your own respect daily. Let me guess. You've spent years earning titles. CEO, partner, founder. But somewhere along the way, you stopped earning the one title that actually matters. A man you can respect in the mirror. Most people think respect is something given by others. That if you close a big deal, build a reputation, or command a boardroom, respect will follow. But the Stoics knew better. True respect is never given. It's earned, daily, internally, and the person who needs to give it is you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Because when the lights are off and the applause fades, your rituals, your habits, your private integrity, that's what defines you. Not the image, not the brand, but the man behind it all." Let me ask you, what did you do this morning that made you proud? Did you wake up with purpose or hit snooze 5 times? Did you keep the promise you made to yourself last week, or did you push it down the road again? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every single day, you cast a vote for the strong man or the soft one. And respect, real respect, doesn't come from external validation. It comes from stacking wins only you can see. Small, private, uncompromising victories. It's the workout no one saw, the email you didn't send in anger, the meeting where you listened instead of proved, the night you chose reading, over scrolling. You want to be respected. Start by not lying to yourself. Don't make promises you don't intend to keep. Don't chase approval from people who don't live with your consequences, and don't expect legacy from comfort. Because legacy is earned in the dark, in the moments no one sees, when no one is watching, but you are. So today, before the day runs you, ask yourself, what's one hard thing I can do just for me? Something that doesn't get applause, but builds my spine. Because that's the man your team will follow. That's the father your kids will model. That's the legacy no market can crash. Respect isn't something you wait for, it's something you forge. In silence, one day at a time. So now let me ask you this. What's one decision you made today that made you proud? Not your team, not your family, you. Because sometimes self-respect doesn't come from applause. It comes from knowing you showed up when no one else saw it. Drop it in the comments. The moment I earned my own respect was when. Your story might just remind another man that real validation begins within. Principle 3. Redefine stress as strength training. There's a reason why some men break under pressure, while others rise through it. It's not about how much stress you carry, it's about how you frame it. Most people treat stress like an invader, something to escape, to numb, to medicate. But a Stoic leader? He treats stress like a barbell. Heavy, yes, but designed to make him stronger. Stress isn't the enemy. It's the environment in which your mental toughness is sculpted. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." In other words, stress isn't a threat, it's your training ground. Just like a muscle, your mind doesn't grow when everything is easy. It grows when it's under deliberate tension. You know this in business. You don't grow a company by avoiding challenges. You grow it by facing them, systematizing them, and moving through them with clarity. So why would your inner world be any different? Every late night, every betrayal, every high-stakes decision that made your hands sweat was a rep, a mental deadlift, a chance to strengthen your frame instead of folding, but only if you choose to see it that way. You see, stress without perspective becomes panic, but stress with discipline and reframing becomes preparation. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this forging inside me?" What you once labeled as pressure becomes a signal that you're entering territory that requires growth, not escape. So the next time stress knocks at your door, don't flinch. Step forward. Take the weight, and remind yourself, this isn't stress. This is strength training for my character. Because real power doesn't come from avoiding pressure. It comes from becoming the kind of man who performs under it. And the more weight you carry with clarity, the more unstoppable you become. Principle 4. Mastering emotions. Here's the hard truth. If your emotions sit at the head of the table, your business and your life are already being mismanaged. We've all been there. That one moment in the boardroom when a comment strikes a nerve and your instinct is to fire back. Or when you open your inbox, see bad news, and spiral. But as a Stoic leader, you don't have that luxury. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most people misunderstand this. They think Stoicism means numbing yourself. But the truth is, Stoicism teaches us to govern ourselves like an empire, with logic as the ruler, not impulse. See, emotion isn't the enemy, it's information. But you must promote reason to CEO status and assign emotion the role of trusted advisor. You listen. You learn, but you do not let it dictate policy. The man who leads from emotion reacts. The man who leads from logic responds. One creates a storm. The other becomes the eye of it. When your company is going through a downturn, your team looks to you, not for panic, not for blame, but for clarity. And clarity only comes when your mind is unshaken by the tides of impulse. You don't build resilience by denying emotion. You build it by disciplining the chain of command inside your head. The feeling shows up, but the final decision always belongs to logic. That's why you don't send the email in anger. You don't speak to your son when you're still fuming. You don't pivot strategy in your business just because you're tired, triggered, or envious of someone else's win. You pause, you breathe, you lead with calm, and calm is contagious. You want to earn respect in the boardroom, in the home, and in the mirror. Then make logic your default mode of operation. Emotion can ride shotgun, but reason drives. The world doesn't reward the most emotional man in the room. It rewards the one who remains clear-headed, even when chaos rings the bell. So ask yourself before your next big decision, is this emotion or execution? Because once logic becomes the CEO, your life starts making profitable decisions. Principle 5, train the mind like a craft. No one tells you this, but the sharpest minds in business aren't born with clarity. They're forged, just like steel. You wouldn't expect to pick up a violin and play Bach flawlessly on day one. You wouldn't walk into a wood shop and build a handcrafted desk without years of practice. So why do so many men expect their mind to operate at peak clarity, discipline, and strategy without ever training it? The Stoics never saw the mind as fixed. They saw it as a tool, a craft to be sharpened, and sharpening takes work. Epictetus, a man born into slavery who became one of the most revered philosophers of Rome, once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, because growth always looks awkward at first." As a leader, your decisions shape lives, your employees, your family, your legacy. But when was the last time you trained your thinking like you train your body or your business? When was the last time you rehearsed stillness under pressure? Clarity in chaos, perspective over impulse. Mental mastery isn't luck, it's reps. And here's the hard truth. If you don't direct your mind, the world will. The news cycle will hijack your focus. Stress will distort your judgment. Old emotional habits will play like broken records in the background, keeping you reactive, not intentional. But when you train your mind like a craftsman trains his hands, you build something unshakable. So here's how. Start with mental reps each day. Morning, read one passage of Meditations. One line. Reflect. Write down what it really means for your life. Midday, when stress hits, pause. Don't react. Breathe. Reframe the situation through logic, not emotion. Evening, audit your decisions. What did your mind do well today? Where did it wander? What must be corrected tomorrow? Train like this, daily, without compromise, and over time, your thoughts will sharpen. Your focus will slice through noise. Your inner voice will become your greatest ally, not your enemy. Because when the mind is trained like a craft, leadership becomes second nature. What's the one mental habit you're committed to sharpening this week? Because just like a craftsman returns to his tools daily, a resilient man returns to his thoughts, reshaping them with precision. Drop yours in the comments. The mental muscle I'm training now is, you never know. Your discipline might spark someone else's breakthrough. Principle 6, own the narrative. No one tells you this, But every time you hesitate to speak up, every time you let someone else define your failure, you're handing them the pen and letting them write your story. And in business, in leadership, in life, that is the fastest way to disappear. You weren't put here to play the side character in your own legacy, but here's the hard truth. Most men wake up at 45, successful on paper, respected in boardrooms, maybe even admired by their peers, and yet deep down, they've become strangers in their own story. They let the investor rewrite their conviction. They let market conditions rewrite their strategy. They let betrayal, rejection, and public failure shape how they see themselves. Until they're not leading, they're just reacting. That's the weak version of you, the one that surrenders authorship, the one that lets temporary failure become permanent identity, the one that thinks silence equals shame, when in truth, silence can be sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." But the modern leader needs to go one step further. You must own not just your mind, but your narrative. So here's the turning point. You reclaim your command the moment you stop explaining and start defining. You don't need to justify why you fell. You only need to decide how you'll rise. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your darkest chapters, but you do owe yourself the courage to write what comes next, on your terms, in your voice. Without apology, look in the mirror and ask yourself, who's narrating this chapter of my life? Is it your fear, your critics? The ex-partner who said you'd never rebuild? The client who walked away when you needed them most? Or is it the version of you that leads from clarity, even when misunderstood? The version that chooses meaning over noise and resilience over reaction? When you own the narrative, you don't need louder words. You just need true ones. And when those words come from deep within, from values forged in hardship, tested under pressure, they echo, not just across your life, but across the lives of everyone who watches how you lead in silence. Because the leader who reclaims his story can rewrite the world around him. Principle 7. Endure with elegance. If this sounds like you, you've carried weight most men never see. Payroll, lawsuits, silent betrayals. You've stood in rooms where the deal was dying and still kept your voice steady. You've shaken hands with people who lied to your face because dignity demanded it. That's not weakness, that's elegance under pressure. And that's exactly what Stoicism demands. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Elegance, in Stoic terms, doesn't mean softness. It means restraint with power. It's the man who can endure not just the burden, but the loneliness that comes with leading well. Because leadership isn't loud. It's the quiet decision to remain composed while everything unravels around you. A weak man explodes, panics, blames. The Stoic leader absorbs, redirects, endures. Not because he doesn't feel it, but because he's trained his mind to rise above it. You see, real power isn't control over outcomes. It's control over yourself when outcomes spiral. It's walking through fire, but never letting it distort your posture. There will be quarters when revenue dips. People walk away. Deals collapse at the 1-yard line. But you endure, not just to survive, but to show your team, your family, and your future self that grace under pressure is a decision. So here's your test. Can you suffer with strength without needing sympathy? Can you hold the standard without anyone clapping? Can you bleed with silence and still lead with clarity? If you can, then you've already built the kind of man no chaos can bend. This is how Stoics endure, not with bitterness, but with quiet elegance. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Seneca, Principle 8. Fight battles that matter. Most people think strength is measured by how many fights you win, but true strength, Stoic strength, is measured by which fights you choose to walk away from. You're not 25 anymore. You fought your share of battles, in boardrooms, in marriages, in your own damn mind. But at this point in life, the real test isn't how loud you respond. It's how precise you are about where you place your energy. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Every fight has a cost, even the ones you win. It drains your focus. It steals your time. It pulls you out of alignment, away from your mission, your family, your purpose. And worst of all, it makes you reactive instead of strategic. As Seneca warned, what is the point of dragging up sufferings that are over, of being miserable now because you were miserable then? Wise men don't waste time on battles that don't build something. So ask yourself, do I really need to argue with that employee's ego? Do I need to defend my name in every room I'm not in? Do I need to respond to that passive-aggressive email? Or am I being baited into a war with no upside? The weak man fights for pride. The strong man fights for purpose. And in the Stoic code, that purpose must always be upward, toward virtue, clarity, impact. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, had the power to destroy anyone who disrespected him. But he often chose silence. Why? Because wasting time on petty conflict would only delay what really mattered, building an empire that would outlive him. As a modern leader, you must adopt the same discipline. Not every opinion deserves a rebuttal. Not every slight deserves a response. Not every battlefield deserves your presence, because your focus is your most valuable currency. So fight, but fight strategically. Choose the fights that shape your legacy. Choose the resistance that makes you sharper, stronger, and more respected. Let others waste their strength proving points. You're building something too powerful to be distracted. Let me ask you, what battle are you choosing to fight that actually matters? Not the petty arguments, not the distractions, but the quiet, meaningful war that will shape your legacy. Principle 9. Solitude is the leadership lab. Have you ever noticed that your sharpest decisions, your deepest clarity, often arrive not in the boardroom, but in the silence before sunrise? That's no coincidence, because solitude, the kind you don't chase but finally stop resisting, is where real leaders are built. Most people avoid being alone. They fill every gap with meetings, notifications, podcasts, background noise, anything to distract from the stillness that forces self-examination. But a true Stoic leader understands this truth. You cannot command others until you first command yourself. And self-command is forged in solitude. It's not the kind of solitude that comes from isolation or bitterness, but the chosen silence of a man who is no longer afraid to confront himself. Because in solitude, the masks fall. You can't pretend, you can't posture. You're left with the raw reality, your strengths, your regrets, your purpose, or your drift. Marcus Aurelius led an empire, yet his greatest battles weren't waged with swords. They were fought on the pages of his journal, alone at night, in the barracks, under candlelight. He wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." In solitude, you dig. You review the day not just as a manager, but as a man. You ask, did I react or respond? Did I act with purpose or drift through routine? Am I building or coasting? Most men won't ask those questions. Why? Because they don't want the answers. But you're different. You know that solitude is your strategic edge. It's where you review your emotional triggers, where you sharpen your standards, where you align your decisions with your principles, not the market's mood. Solitude isn't lonely, it's leadership in rehearsal. So here's your test. Each morning, before you let the world in, spend 15 minutes in silence. No phone, no agenda, just stillness. Reflect, write. Think like a general before war. And each evening, return. Decompress not with noise, but with clarity, because the man who rules his solitude never needs the crowd to validate his vision. And when the next storm hits your company, your family, or your life, you won't panic. You've trained in silence. You've rehearsed strength in stillness. You've built your lab in solitude. Principle 10. Build a life that outlasts you. No one tells you this. But you are either building a legacy or you're just spending time. At this point in your life, you've likely achieved things people once told you were impossible. You've built businesses, held your family together, made decisions that required more courage than applause. But there's one truth that becomes louder as the years go by. Success fades. Impact remains. The Stoics never chased legacy for fame. They chased it to fulfill duty. Because when everything else falls away, the money, the applause, the status, what you built into others is what lives on. Marcus Aurelius wrote not to be remembered, but to discipline his mind. He left behind meditations not as a self-branding exercise, but as a tool for the next generation of leaders. That's legacy, the quiet structures you build that shape people after you're gone. So the question is not, what will they say about me? The question is, what will they become? Because I lived with purpose. That's where your focus must turn now. Not just toward profits, but toward principles. Not just toward achievement, but toward alignment. Because a life that outlasts you isn't built by accident. It's built by intention. It's built by the daily choices to live your values when no one's watching. The strong man, the Stoic leader, does not chase immortality. He doesn't need to. He builds systems that run without him. He mentors men who can lead after him. He raises children who understand discipline, not entitlement. He writes books, creates foundations, or leaves behind a company culture where virtue matters more than politics. And even if none of it bears his name, his fingerprints are on everything. Because his character echoes through people, through decisions, through standards. So don't just build to win in your lifetime. Build to serve beyond it. Let your life be the blueprint your grandson studies when he needs courage. Let your choices be the compass for your team long after you're gone. Let your discipline be the DNA of something eternal. The man who builds a life that outlasts him never truly dies. The core message behind "you will kill that weak version of yourself" isn't about becoming someone new. It's about reclaiming who you were always meant to be. For high-performing leaders and entrepreneurs over 40, this isn't motivational fluff. It's a wake-up call. The video reminds us that comfort is often the most seductive form of self-betrayal. It teaches that discipline is not a punishment. It's proof that you still believe in your potential. Whether it's ignoring excuses, anchoring your identity in action, or rebuilding your mental resilience, the Stoic lesson is clear. Strength is a practice, not a personality trait. The battle isn't out there, it's in the mirror. And every time you choose discomfort over delay, clarity over chaos, action over excuse, you're slowly killing the weaker self that's held you back. These 10 principles aren't just theory, they're tools. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to start with one. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below. The habit I'm killing today is... Your words might be the mirror someone else needs to recognize their turning point. And if this message called you out, make sure to subscribe for more Stoic power. Rebuild one mindset at a time.